first thing that we heard, but I guess it wasn't because I'm just hearing the chime now.
Yeah, well, it usually catches like 30 seconds. Oh, not 30 seconds. Jeez, wow.
How drunk are you?
First beer.
Oh, what are you drinking?
I am drinking it's called a Friend with Two Boats. It is a passion fruit, orange juice, and coconut ale from Pipeworks in Chicago, courtesy of Bink.
I'm having the last of my Velvet Rush Founders big chocolate, vanilla, everything stout.
Yeah, I like that one. I've got one left that I'm giving to actually my buddy Kyler. So
I'm gonna be hammered by the end of this one. I'm drinking a Pennsylvania Dutch birch beer.
Nice. Yeah, that's at least 13 or 14%. So speaking of someone that drinks a lot, Richie threw out a fantastic idea in our text note earlier, and it's very timely too, considering this man is returning to the ring.
We're throwing a wake is what we're doing, I think. We're having a wake.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So one Richard Morgan Flair, whatever.
I think it's still pronounced Flair.
Flair. I don't know. It's weird. It's spelled Fliehr, and I don't know.
Well, I think
but we all know him
as Helicopter Dick. Helicopter Dick Flair.
Yeah, if you've ever listened to any other podcasts or watched any documentaries, particularly ones that weren't produced by the WWE, yeah, that's always a story on those things.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys see the Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell episode?
Yes, it did. And I was extremely surprised by that episode because you'd always heard the stories and everything, and they always played it up for laughs. And I never really realized until I saw that episode exactly how fucked up it was and how bad things were on that flight.
It's crazy that episode itself had some backlash with wrestlers like Tommy Dreamer, and there were others that had gave their accounts, and they basically had, I'd say, forced to step away from what they were doing, but there were some pretty heavy apologies they had to give. And, it came out after that the comments that they made may have been edited a bit. So it was, I hate to say this because I'm a really big fan of the series, but it almost looked like some of the stuff was made to look worse than it was, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think we live in a sensationalized world, so that you actually want to put eyeballs on the screen. But however, it was involving Ric Flair. So everything is pretty believable. It was the fact of the way that they were romanticizing things that obviously should never have been,
right.
The harassment and whatever. So
I mean, Ric Flair, obviously a huge part of the wrestling landscape for the 80s and 90s into the 2000s. And he's been on WWE TV now for the better part of his career, between coming over to WWE in the 90s and then, coming over once the acquisition happened and everything. So a lot of people don't know his wild side that was Ric Flair in the 80s and the 70s, even, honestly.
Yeah.
And all that.
I was going to say we can dive into just and again, just kind of working off of Wikipedia here, and kind of my own personal knowledge. But we'll I figure let's kind of run down just kind of Ric Flair's history a little bit, and then this kind of could lead into exactly that guy.
Tit River.
Yeah, so Ric Flair, Bob, you mentioned he started wrestling in the 70s. Wrestled for the AWA in the early 70s. I assume it was a Vern Gagne territory then. I don't know. Either of you guys familiar with that? I know Vern ran it in the 80s. I don't know if he ran it in the 70s or not.
All I know is Ric Flair was old when we were kids.
Exactly. Actually, Bob, you mentioned this Flair came to the WWE, and I'm sure you guys know this, but Royal Rumble '92. I always think with Flair is probably my all-time favorite Royal Rumble. I don't know what your guys' opinion is on that, but I'm bringing that up because when Ric Flair was in that Rumble, I believe he was just shy of turning 43 years old. Yeah. So
Wow.
think about that. We were all around 10ish or whatever, and he was just and wrestling in these days, these terms. I'm not saying that like that's old. AJ Styles is in his 40s, Edge is in his 40s. We've had these conversations before with these different wrestlers, but at the time, did you guys think if he made that WCW to WWF jump then, he did seem like kind of an old man then to
Right.
me.
Well, I mean, I can remember watching in 99, 2000, seeing a match between him and Hogan in WCW and thinking,
Ugh.
holy shit, they both look like they're 70 years old. How are they letting them in the ring together? And realizing, wait, they're not that old. Like they were old, like they were approaching 50, if not 50 at that time. But like they looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And
Man,
so to think about the guys that we have now that are wrestling that are around that same age now, it's like night and day.
yeah, and I think a lot of it. And you said this, Rich, when you had hopped off to fix your connection issues. The the drinking and the whatever else, obviously there's got to be some kind of drugs there to.
Herpes.
Well, yeah, who knows with him?
Well, they
But
were all in the 80s WWE or whatever, so I'm sure there's a lot of coke involved. The whole thing.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, oh yeah. I think Bruce Pritchard has talked about that plenty of times on his shows and stuff. Like just the amount of cocaine that was done from practically everybody. Think about the toll that takes in your body. I mean, so there's a reason why those guys then looked a lot older than.
Although Ric Flair was never ripped, so I don't know if he did steroids like everyone else, but there's definitely other things.
Yeah, for him, I think it was just the drinking. And I think one thing we're going to kind of jump around his things here, but you guys are you guys are familiar with plane crash, right?
yeah. He was in a plane crash and survived.
Yeah, and that happened in 1975. And one thing that I always like to look at in a Ric Flair match is look the way anything beyond 1975. Look the way that he takes a back body drop. It is completely different than everyone else. And it all derives from that plane crash because it severely screwed up his back. So if you ever watch the way he takes a back body drop, it's never flat. It's never like anyone else does. He always tries to land on his side. I don't know if you guys ever caught that or not.
No, I've never took notice of that.
Yeah, go back and watch just any Ric Flair match. And from our and it's just it's weird. And it's one of those things that like anytime I've gone back and rewatch matches or whatever, that's one thing that always catches my attention. And it's just now it's like I can't stop seeing it because now I know that that's where that came from. But let's kind of look at a little bit of more of his career stuff here. So yeah, he does some stuff here, AWA, and then goes and does some other independent things, but then does a lot of stuff with what they call Jim Cocker Promotions or getting into World Championship Wrestling. So I don't know, do either of you guys remember just flicking through, finding some TBS Saturday nights and watching these Flair and whatever else on these things where it was like, yeah, this guy's pretty much the only thing they've got going outside of maybe like Sting or whoever at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I was always growing up a WWF guy, or kid, I guess, really. But I'd see WCW every once in a while, especially when I was down visiting my aunt and uncle in Virginia Beach, because my uncle John was a WCW guy, and as a matter of fact, one of the first wrestling figures I ever got was an Arn Anderson little WCW guy. But I still remember seeing Flair, and even in Flair's heyday, being like, wow, man, that guy looks just kind of beat up. Like, didn't look like the other wrestlers that were. He didn't look like he should be a superstar.
No, not at all. And I think, had any of us been born 10, 20 years prior to when we were, I could see myself really digging into the whole Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Flair, Ricky Steamboat stuff. Because if you think like we had in WWF as fans then, we're sitting there watching Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, some of these other guys. And then on the WCW side, they had these hour-long matches between Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. I think I would have been more drawn to that. And I say that thinking of how the product is now. You're more drawn to actual wrestling. So you want to see typically more of the guys that are on AEW. I just in my head, that's kind of where I'd be at. I think I'd be more drawn to the actual wrestling. I don't know about you guys, but that's in my head. That's what Flair did. He put on great matches with anybody.
Right.
So
it's because he wasn't, and maybe this is why he's still able to do it at 73. I forget how old he is.
73. Yep.
The fact that he's not so much a wrestler as he is a Jericho, so he's a sports entertainer. He's all theatrics. It's all the same 5 or 6 moves, but he makes them interesting every time he does them. Even though he stole them all from Buddy Rogers.
Along with the name.
Yeah, yep.
Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Yeah. We can't I guess we can't have a conversation about Ric Flair without talking about a little bit of Buddy Rogers. I think there was a lot of Buddy Rogers, and there was quite a bit of was it Gorgeous George?
Yeah.
Am I mistaken in that?
No, you're correct.
Okay. And I'm not talking about Gorgeous George from the WCW days. Different Gorgeous George from the 1960s, 70s. But yeah, he stole a lot from a lot of people, but he was the one that he figured out the formula. And I think he figured it out really quick.
And that's also goes back to how old he is, because he was able to, well, this is what he just making assumptions while drunk, but he was able to do that because it was before Vince McMahon took everything and televised it. So you had all your little things. So, well, we don't know this guy's doing it over here, so we can have this guy doing it over here.
Right.
Your territories. He could be the Nature Boy in this territory. Buddy Rogers could be the Nature Boy in this territory. And then if somebody else wants it, they could go do it in, Canada.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's what his big draw was too. Then, really, like you said before, the major televised stuff went down the road in the future, was that he could be that guy and be that heel that lights up the territory, and then maybe grabs their title and then holds it for 2, 3, 4 months until he comes back around, because there's no one else to go after him. But I think that the territory days is what led him into, to me, his greatest opponent being Dusty Rhodes. I don't know. I'm sure that's up for debate, but what do you guys think? Flair's greatest opponent of all time?
No, it's got to be Dusty.
And I'm partial because Dusty's probably my all-time favorite. So, but
I mean, because it's not going to be Sting. It's not going to be Hogan. And you think about the other guys really that he wrestled, there were good wrestlers, but Dusty is generational. And, he's kind of, they broke the mold when they made Dusty, and you're never going to see another wrestler like him. And I think that's, and they work together so well. Who'd you say, Rich?
I said, that's right, Daddy.
That's right, Daddy.
Listen here, Daddy. Let me tell you. Why don't you sit beside the learning tree?
We're gonna throw you how to do an hour-long Broadway, baby. But no, I mentioned Ricky Steamboat too, and I think that's a thing. I would say Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, as far as maybe actual wrestling matches, from what I've seen, probably better than Flair and Dusty.
Yeah.
However, I think Richie, you said this, Bob, you said this too. There's an entertainment perspective there with Flair and Dusty. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Like
remember
I,
Steamboat.
Hmm?
I was gonna say I remember Steamboat wrestling well. I remember liking matches like that he wrestled, but I can't remember anything all about his character other than he was like an Asian guy. Like he was a karate thing
right.
theoretically, and I think that's like all I remember. But whenever you bring up like Dusty Rhodes, I can think of all of it. Well, not all, but the character and stuff like that behind it. The daddy thing. Like I can't think of any catchphrases that Steamboat had.
Yeah, and
So.
I think that's the thing. Like, and I'll take some heat for this if anyone with any knowledge actually listens to this, but I liked Ricky Steamboat as a kid with breathing the fire and all that stuff. To me, that's a spectacle, right? That's really cool. Now, I can appreciate the man as a wrestler. I think he's one of the most technically sound wrestlers of all time. However, hate to say this, I'll put this on thing. The dude had the personality of a dead moth. I mean, just not a whole lot going there for me. I mean, beyond the, I don't know. I don't ever hear anyone talk about Ricky Steamboat's mic work, ever. Right. I hear about his in-ring work, but never his mic work. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just, I think that's why Flair Dusty holds up better, personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it comes back to if you want to look at it from that perspective, you know, from in the 80s and the 70s and 80s, it was always, he was one of the rare, you know, non-white, like, well, I don't want to say non-white, but non-American wrestlers that wasn't like a Canadian that was able to get over.
Born in West New York, by the way.
But I mean, like, he looked, you know, by looks. He didn't look like...
Right. He wasn't the blonde hair, blue eye.
Right. Because you're looking back then, you have, I mean, even Yokozuna was the foreign menace. You know, they made Yokozuna from Japan and didn't talk and whatever, you know, like, and all of the, you have them as these foreign menaces. Who, Nikolai Volkov or...
Exactly. They made the Russians that weren't from Russia.
Right. And he legitimately changed his name and only spoke in Russian so that he wouldn't break kayfabe. And then finally, when he retired... What's that?
What do you mean this guy's American?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So, but that's what I mean. Like, there, you know, there's so many where it was just the foreign menace, and if you don't look like this, you're not going to get over. And so they gave him that gimmick, and that was enough to get him over and to not, you know, fall into that trap, but it wasn't enough to propel him any further.
Right.
So
the one of the things I know we're kind of jump around here, and I think you mentioned it, Richie, about Flair jump around wives. But
you know, before we get into that, I was looking at Ricky Steamboat. He's kind of he's 5 years younger than Ric Flair, but he's had 1, 2, 3, 4. He's also been married 5 times. So
ooh,
yeah.
All right. I think we can.
Ric Flair's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ric Flair's been married 5 times too. So there you go. Although, well, he separated from his last wife, so he's got.
Maybe they got one. Yeah. So he's got one more in him.
Well, you know, they'll be wheeling his girding. Jesus.
Viagra on a pole match.
Oh, you know, WCW would have definitely had that back in the day.
Oh, yeah. No, they'd have had a Judy Bagwell on Ric Flair
too. I forget.
Did he?
What that wife swap was? Yeah.
No, they'd have had a Judy Bagwell on Ric Flair's pole match. I think that's our new domain.
He swapped wives with Roddy Piper on Celebrity Wife Swap.
Did he?
Yes.
Did he really?
Huh.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
I don't think I've ever seen Roddy's wife, but I know that Teal Piper's hot. Roddy's daughter.
I'd have to go back and find that because I watched the Flair wasn't in it, but you said Piper. I watched the Legends House stuff. I thought that was pretty good fun.
Yeah, I like Legends House.
Yeah, and mainly because of Piper, but
Yeah,
there's some good people in that. But the thing that going in and out of Flair's career here, and we haven't talked about this yet. And what honestly should have been his last stuff, and even then, to me, I think it came 5-10 years too late, was his work with Shawn Michaels.
Mhm.
That stuff to me, both those guys probably had no business being in the ring then. Michaels, in the different sense of, yeah, maybe age was a factor, but he was pretty beat up. In 2000, was it 2008?
Yeah.
9? Was it 8?
Was it, or was it later than that? No, it must have been. It had to have been 2008 because it's one of the last. That's one of the last major matches I remember watching, because I took a little, not hiatus, but I kind of backed off watching for a little bit, where I wasn't doing it, watching as much.
Yeah, it was 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
wasn't
like,
a retirement match.
It was supposed to retire Flair.
yeah.
And then he came back. He said, "I'm not going anywhere."
No, he ended up. So he retired, or supposed to have retired in
5
2008.
divorces. Yes.
The one thing though about that retirement match was that was the actual 2008 Pro Wrestling Illustrated Match of the Year, for what it's worth. So, and I would gain to say that that's most likely because of the the Flair is supposed to be his last match ever, but it was a great match. I think it's a good storytelling thing. But he comes back and does appearances for Ring of Honor, TNA, actually wrestles in TNA, and then has a long time back in the WWE, for almost 10 years. He comes and does some different things. Never wrestles. He gets involved from time to time, but just does.
Didn't he manage his daughter for a while?
Yes, and then has a kind of a creepy angle with Lacey Evans toward the end of the run there. Bob, you remember that?
Yeah, he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
Did she give birth to a hand?
I really wish. Yeah, man.
That would have been the best. Or a foot.
That's
eventually they'll just have all the ladies in WWE start giving birth to different body parts, and you can make a wrestler out of them. Be like a creative figure.
I think that's the way to do it.
I know we're jumping all over the place, but I had to look up his net worth, and on several sites it's saying his net worth is only $500,000.
I don't doubt it. I mean, you think about it, how much Ric Flair doesn't strike me as the kind of person that socks money away.
Nah, it doesn't seem like, especially like 5 divorces. So if you're losing money from each of them, I guess cocaine's expensive. Well, it was expensive here and there.
Yeah,
see,
it's probably more expensive now.
Well, and from what my knowledge is, and I know, Richie, I know we talked about this before, but that one WWE thing that ran on A&E where they go the show where they try to find the collectibles, the one where they try to find Ric Flair's robe, I believe that was the last episode of that series. From what I know, a lot of those robes are they were either sold or they're definitely not in his hands. But I mean, they went for like 10, 20, 30, like to $50,000 a shot. He sold that stuff for something.
Oh yeah,
for crack, or coke. I mean,
and that's the thing that sucks. Like he probably had, and I know he did. Because especially then running independence and running whatever he did and territory stuff, he spent all that money on that stuff and then probably turned it over just to get money for drinking or whatever.
Right.
And then collectors turn it over for 10 times more years down the road.
I'm now picturing Ric Flair working behind the deli, the meat counter in a supermarket.
I could see it.
The man is
be on the way, the scale and stuff, cutting it extra thick to get the woo every slice.
So let's before we get into some of his other shenanigans, we have to talk about this. And the reason why we're talking about Ric Flair now is that he is scheduled within, what is it, about a week and a half? It's right around SummerSlam.
It's on the 31st, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Down in
30th.
Nashville.
It's whatever the last day of the month is.
Yeah. So July 31st. He is scheduled down in Nashville, the Nashville Fairgrounds, which it crossed my mind to go, but I'll be out of town to wrestle his final match. Yeah. And
with broken foot and a bad heart. He always he hurt his foot while training for this match.
Jesus.
So it's been speculated that it's a 6-man tag, from what I gather. It'll be
two-man tag.
Well, I thought that too, but I looked up a recent article. Well, maybe it's not a 6-man. Maybe it wasn't a recent article.
And Tim and his son-in-law, Andrade. I don't know how you pronounce that name.
Andrade El Idolo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not a 6-man. I'm sorry. It's just a regular tag. I was looking at a different match, and yeah, no. So yeah, do they have opponents yet though?
I don't know.
They do.
I don't know.
It's hold on, I'm looking it up right now. Ric Flair. I think
he should do this right and wrestle in a what's that War Games arena that AEW just had, where it's the two rings with the steel cage?
Blood and Guts.
Yeah, it's or barbed wire. He should definitely be doing a barbed wire match for his last match.
Yeah, exploding just like a death match.
They should, and then they can do cremation at the same time.
I'd read on different things that it could possibly be a 6-man, but that's probably not the case. I thought I originally heard that too, that it was supposed to be just a tag match. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's I don't know. The cool thing is with the whole show, though, they've actually put together an interesting card based on, some of the other people that, he's done some stuff with in his career. So you've got like Ricky Morton and his son with Robert Gibson in the corner.
I'm sorry. I just remembered. It's I don't remember who the young man opponent is, but the old man opponent is Jay Jarrett.
Yeah, it's Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal.
That's it.
Oh, Jeff's actually right. Okay, is he? Yeah. Wow.
Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal versus Ric Flair and Andre El Idolo.
Okay, which is crazy because Jeff Jarrett's supposed to appear at SummerSlam. So seriously,
Double J can be everywhere.
That's right, making them bucks.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna run through that because it's the first time I've actually looked at this. So the card's actually cool. So you've got the Rock and Roll Express connection there. Versus Brian Pillman Jr. and then Arn Anderson's son Brock. Arn's in the corner. You've got the Wolves versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Ray Phoenix and Taurus, Laredo Kid and Bandito. Josh Alexander versus Jacob Batu. You've got Jordan Grace, Deanna Purrazzo, and Rachel Ellering in a three-way match. Killer Cross and Harry Smith, which Harry Smith is British Bulldogs kid. Clark Connors and Ren Morita from New Japan. And then I really like this one. You've got the Briscoes versus the Von Erichs. So you get two of the Von Erich kids in this one, which is, again, I just like most of these matches have some connection to Flair, which is awesome. Again, I think it'd be remiss to say here, not mentioning the Von Erichs with Ric Flair, because there was a lot of work there too. So, but what do you think about Flair getting in the ring one last time? Almost 15 years after he retired the first time.
They're obviously going to protect the hell out of him. I'd be surprised if there's not some kind of shenanigans and somehow like he just gets tagged in for like to make the pin or something like that. Or I don't know, man. I just can't see. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I have to be wrong because you're gonna have a lot of people pissed off and throwing shit in the ring if it's not, if he doesn't get in the ring, and that's what they paid for. But
I mentioned it earlier when I mentioned the wrestler, but we're going to see a heart attack in the ring. It's going to end with just people staring over his body.
it could that listen, not to be morbid, but that's very possible too. He's not. It's not like he's in great shape. He could be Randy the Ram.
Yeah.
Right.
He's in pretty good shape for a 70-something-year-old, but not like a 70-something-year-old who's going to wrestle.
Right.
It'd be cool if he wrestled Terry Funk. I want to see him and Terry Funk in the ring. I think Terry Funk's still taking.
Oh yeah. Dude, I would definitely I would be on board with.
I'd like and what's unfortunate is, and I never would have thought this because I thought Funk was, to me, always in better shape, even with all the crap that he went through than Flair.
Funk
but
is
Funk
5 years older than Ric Flair.
Yeah, he is not in good health at all. I don't know if you saw some of the stuff with him and Mick Foley, just some of the posts on Twitter and whatnot, but my goodness, it's not good. That man, it's amazing he's still hanging in there.
Especially wrestlers from that area don't usually make it to 78. So the fact that he's still around is good on him.
Yeah. He and the crazy thing was, think about the stuff that he was doing in ECW in his 50s. We're sitting here. I was sitting here dogging Ric Flair winning the Rumble at almost 43 back 30 years ago. But Funk, sitting there doing barbed wire matches with Sabu at like 53.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. And yeah, I mean, Funk, what kills me is that I feel like guys like Terry Funk should be more well known. They should be just as notable as a Ric Flair, just based on the sheer amount of work that they did, the type of work that they did, the volume, just their match volume.
Like everybody knows Terry Funk. You just can't call him by name. You have to say Terry Funk's that guy that got beat up by the Chip and Dale guy in Roadhouse.
Yeah, but I mean, like, casual wrestling fans know who Ric Flair is. They know who Hogan is, and I just think it's a shame that Terry Funk's not mentioned in that same breath. You know what I mean?
No, dude, I completely agree. I've always been a huge Terry Funk fan. Yeah. I think what was crazy and to me, I think this was a kick in the teeth. Although I love to see it, but like whenever Attitude Era, he shows up as Chainsaw Charlie. I mean, come on, it's Terry Funk with a pantyhose sock over his head. I mean, come on.
Well, it was Chainsaw Charlie, and what was that when that was just when Mick was being Cactus Jack, right? Or was Mick doing?
Yeah, he was Cactus Jack at the time.
Okay, because I couldn't remember if they had him playing some stupid ass role too.
Yeah, it sucks because it's like I knew they were goofing basically because I know Jim Ross even I believe said Funk's name on broadcast, but Foley they let him get away with murder on as far as like character development because he went back and forth with all that stuff, which was awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, can't you just let the man be Terry Funk?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't need the chainsaw like. And
well, how about AEW? They pulled out the chainsaw from under the ring. Was that a subtle nod to Chainsaw Charlie?
Could have been.
Yeah, see that?
So all right. So speaking of chainsaws and Ric Flair here,
what they do is autopsy. Where wow, this might be worse than anything we've said about Johnny Bench.
I don't know. Johnny Bench never asked for anything ever.
That's true.
Ric Flair, I don't know. Not that he asked for anything from us, but he lived. I'm pretty certain he lived a different life than Johnny Bench.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think he was quite. I think Johnny Bench is probably an angel compared to one Mr. Ric Flair.
I don't know. Johnny Bench back in his day touring too, the same thing.
I'm so glad that your fucking audio was so garbled there that we could barely make out what you were saying, because I know it was bad.
My
If there was going to be an
Wi-Fi works
episode
just
for
as
Rich
good
to
as my
have,
penis.
if there was ever an episode for Richie to have shitty audio, I think this is it.
It's all good because I think I recorded about a year's worth of episodes with crap audio, so it's all good, Rich.
Shit.
The Southerners on the bench from Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's close though. I mean, it's more south than you are. There's some really interesting things about Flair that we haven't talked about, and because I think this was funny because Richie mentioned about the Terry Funk and Roadhouse thing, so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this. I don't know that I thought this was pretty interesting. I didn't know this. I was just kind of looking at some other things he was involved with. To me, this was the coolest, especially as like a video game nut. In 2009, Flair voiced Commander Douglas Hill in the video game Command and Conquer Red Alert 3. I had no idea that he ever did video game voiceovers, and the fact that he was in a CNC game is pretty damn awesome.
Oh, he did. I thought he did the whole full motion video for it because I remember seeing that.
I don't remember that. I don't remember ever hearing about any of that. So that's news to me, man.
Yeah, he did the full motion
If
video.
he did a voice, or it was just him. If he just came out and said "woo" a couple times and then left.
No, I'm fairly certain, like, because I've seen the videos of him in the uniform. You can find him on YouTube.
Did he play a Russian? That would be cool.
I think he was, if I remember correctly, the uniform was green and red. Let me see.
Woo ski.
Jesus.
Did you either Bob, I'm sure you have, Richie, I don't know. Did you guys see the 30 for 30 about him?
I did not know.
Bob, did you ever see the 30 for 30 about Ric Flair?
I did not. I
was a sucker for those 30 for 30 things. Not that I've seen every single one, but being a big sports nut, but they did one on him, and that's really good. That's certainly something to check out if you can find it somewhere on YouTube, or if you've got ESPN app or whatever. But that's worth your time. That's a good one. Came out about 5 years ago or so.
I know. Here, I'm gonna bring it up. Let me kill my volume a little bit. So
we're gonna try something new here and see if we can bust up more audio.
Make something work correctly.
I still rather watch a Ric Flair sex tape than the Hulk Hogan sex tape, though.
Jesus Christ!
Did that come out clear? Did you hear that? Should I repeat it?
Oh, yeah, it came in clear, and I'll allow it.
Well, what do we have here? Looks to me like a trainee could use a few pointers. I'm Commander Hill, and I'm going to teach you all about defeat. You've got a few good moves for a little whelp. I'll give you that. Sorry, sweetheart. When this is over, I'm taking this oil straight back to the land of the free. I knew you were all going to have to gang up. I wrote the book on tank tactics, boy. Pay attention. You're about to learn what it takes to be a real commander. Well, I'll be darned. One day you might actually make something of yourself. What's the matter there, son? A little too much pressure at the starting gate? You cocky little bastard. Your lack of respect is a disgrace to that uniform. I hope you've been treating your veteran units right, because of all you've got on this one. I know mine are the best of the best. Wipe that smirk off your face, Private. This isn't over. See all those red barrels everywhere? They're filled with candy. Go ahead and break them open. Okay, so maybe I lied about the barrels. You win. So you're back for some more schooling. I already got you flanked on both sides, son. Now I'm going to squeeze you like a grape. I can't believe you slipped out of that. War's not about who's right. It's about who's still standing. How about we do this again on a map where I can use more tanks? What the hell's wrong with you? Apparently you need another whooping. This time from all 3 Allied commanders. Well, I gotta hand it to you, son. You've proven yourself to me today.
What the hell's that?
That was
It's just, so apparently the last couple are just
Same nod in
Ric
his head.
Flair.
I'm Louise Griffith.
Apparently, they paid him an alcohol.
Wow, he actually did a woo.
So we got a woo. But
That was awesome.
the last couple, so since this isn't video for everybody listening, the last couple are just Ric Flair bobbing his head and smiling like he had a stroke. Like, what the fuck was that?
I'll do your video game, but I need 3 cases of cheap beer. Matty Ice.
No, that was the voiceover. Because did you see the one part where he started to fuck up and they just obviously like did the voiceover over it?
Yeah, they just it was the lips are moving, but nothing was coming out, and then
And then Poochie went back to his home planet.
Dude, I've never seen that before. That's awesome. Never heard of that. But here's a crazy thing. So digging into it further. So he does those voiceovers back, several years ago. The man makes his feature film debut in 2015, and you guessed it, Magic Mike XXL.
I did not know that. I honestly thought he was like I don't think I saw Expendables 3, but I figured it would have been one of the Expendables movies.
Yeah, he's not in those, I don't gather. I mean, he gets Magic Mike, and that makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, because he's flinging his dick around.
That's right. But he does come up back a few years ago. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the song Ric Flair Drip.
No.
Tell me you're not. Richie, you don't know Ric Flair Drip?
If it wasn't on one of the WWF albums, I probably didn't hear it. And when I say
Oh,
WWF
man,
albums, I mean like the 80s one from like the Pile Driver was the second one. I can't remember what the first one's just the rest of the album.
Yeah, he's in the music video. It's by a rapper named Offset, and Ric Flair shows up in the music video. And yeah.
Is he surrounded by horse?
Ric Flair Drip sounds like gonorrhea.
It does.
That's like he's old and has those prostate issues now, so he thinks he's done peeing, but there's a little bit of drip at the end there.
Oh.
Yeah. There's any way that could go, and I just nothing about Ric Flair Drip sounds like it would be something I would want to have.
I'm just shocked that neither of you guys have heard that. Maybe, huh?
Apparently,
Maybe I'm more
music video too.
Yeah. Look, Bob and I went back and forth on this because we talked some stuff on Bad Bunny a while ago, and then realized that the guy was actually pretty good in the ring.
Yeah, surprisingly, actually very good in the ring. So, which brings us to the newest WWE superstar, Logan Paul.
It's another one I don't like, but not terrible in the ring.
Wait, is it Jake Paul or Logan Paul?
No, I think it's Logan Paul. Although I don't know. Aren't they the same person?
As far as I care, they are.
I don't know. I don't know these internet celebs.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, Bad Bunny's kind of the same. Although I know he's famous for music in another country.
He's famous here.
I know he's famous here, but he's not like famous, right?
I don't know, man. When I was working at Polo, like back before I started the department, there were people there that were all excited about going to a Bad Bunny concert back in like 2017, 2018. So I don't know, dude. He's apparently pretty big in America.
Oh, that's I know why. Oh, that makes sense. That's why he was big down there. It's because he's from Puerto Rico.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, yeah, he raps in Spanish, so
yeah. Well, that makes sense as to why it's okay. I was gonna say like I just didn't think like overall. I'm not really with it though, so I just thought the WWE was bringing in like somebody to try to get over, and turned out the guy was a decent wrestler. So
I mean, look, you're more with it than me and Richie are. We never heard of the gonorrhea song, aka Ric Flair drip.
it's funny. A couple of years ago, I believe it was 19, had to be right before the COVID stuff. I was at a bar in Normal, Illinois, and they had a craft list, and one of the beers was called Ric Flair Drip.
I'm not drinking it. I'm not drinking it. Because
So,
like Richie said, it's either prostate-induced piss leakage or it's gonorrhea.
I'm looking it up. I'm pretty certain I ordered it. I did. That one was by. Oh, it's funny. That was actually by Burr Oak, which is a brewery in Missouri, and I liked it. So, for terms of what that was, the funny thing is, only 63 people ever checked that in.
Really?
So I really wonder if that was actually a different beer that they just put on there because they thought it was going to be famous.
I'm thinking maybe that might be 63 women that he paid to have sex with, and they were on the wrong rating system.
That's a good point. So we haven't talked about that. So he's other than the fact that he was married 5 times, but look,
two really young women considering his age.
yeah, man got around. And I've heard in documentaries, I always say, like, it's, you guys have heard this stuff before. They always talk about Magic Johnson slept with 20,000 women or whatever. That actually might be true with Ric Flair.
I agree. You know what? I wouldn't doubt any number you told me about Ric Flair and how many women he slept with. I wouldn't doubt at all. Him and Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah. The the funny thing is there's and I can't remember where I first heard this, but I've heard this a couple different times with Flair, was that one of his things that he loved to do was go out and obviously drink, but he would always try to stay enough with it, because one of his things that he loved was watching everyone else get drunk. And so like they would go to the bar and get he'd get a drink for him and whoever he was with, and then he would take his drink and dump it into a plant. And so everyone else is getting completely sloshed, and he's still with it. So I think some of the stuff with the drinking stuff with him is probably true, but I love that story because that tells me that he just loved company from whoever. And then obviously to me, probably wanted to stay with it enough so he could get his jollies off.
Yeah. Not get a case of whiskey Ric Flair.
That's right. Whiskey, we'll call it Whiskey Rick.
Yeah. And also so he could pick the drunkest one, and
I don't know. It's interesting though that he still to this day, at age 73, still finds some weird way to be kind of in the headlines. Gets in a match on a SummerSlam weekend, not at SummerSlam obviously, but there's enough wrestling fans down there that's going to be I think that's going to be a fun time.
And where is SummerSlam this year?
Nashville.
Oh, wait, when is SummerSlam?
It's the last weekend of July.
That's right. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah,
okay.
I almost had tickets for it, but we decided to hit the beach instead. So,
well, the reason I was asking is my dad's taking Peyton to Tennessee this coming weekend.
Really?
Yeah. And so I'm like, wait a second, is he going to be in Tennessee SummerSlam weekend and all this stuff's going to be going on? Like, he's going to have a miserable time because I'm pretty sure they're going to Nashville.
Oh, I don't know. If you've never been, man, Nashville's awesome. So we'll have to.
They're going. I think they're going to Dollywood too. I don't know where Dollywood is.
Oh, that's okay. That's over in Gatlinburg.
Okay, that's where they're going. They're going to Gatlinburg.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's closer to Knoxville.
Okay,
it's like 3 hours or so from Nashville.
Okay,
roughly. Yeah, Nashville's like 2 hours from me. So,
all right. So they'll be far enough away from the festivities.
But regardless of the whole country shtick that Nashville gets, I'm telling you guys, like that's a fun city. So, if you ever get the chance, definitely do it.
All right, I'll have to let them know.
But I don't know. Anyone else got any last closing thoughts on Ric Flair here? Richard, you got any closing thoughts on Ric Flair?
He's old. This is a bad idea. It's at least
It's
broke
definitely a
bones.
bad idea. It's absolutely a bad idea.
Okay. In your minds, because I'm curious, what is the best case scenario that comes out of this match?
Best case scenario is that Ric Flair doesn't die.
Yeah.
That's honestly the best case scenario, because if it's not going to be a good match, he's not capable of putting on a good match. He's not capable of really taking any bumps at this point, I can't imagine. So to me, Ric Flair living is the best case scenario out of this match.
Woo.
I mean, El Idolo is good. Don't get me wrong. He's good in the ring, but this isn't the Andrade El Idolo match. This is the Ric Flair retirement match. And they're going to have to, and Jeff Jarrett does nothing for me. Jay Lethal I like, but you could have had a Jay Lethal versus Andre El Idolo match and have them be the managers. Have Flair and Jarrett be the managers or something. You didn't need to do. There's no reason to put Ric Flair in the ring right now.
Yeah. Look, I'm torn on this for two things, completely different reasons. One, I think the man should have been done with Shawn Michaels. That's where he stopped, and that's it. However, the other side of me says, man, I love seeing these old guys get in the ring. Not that I'm actually going to watch this, but I guess because it's like these were guys that were in the ring when we were kids. I think it's fun. But then every time I turn around and watch, watch that disaster, that Kane Undertaker Shawn Triple H match from a few years ago. Oh God!
Anything with Goldberg's returns the last couple of times.
Dude, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Goldberg is pretty awful anyway.
And he's not 73. Ugh. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
No,
I was
no lead up to this, so there's no story that he's like that. There's a payoff for. It's just we're gonna watch an insanely old man get into the ring one more time because he wants to. He wasn't super athletic to begin with, so he'll be able to do his own. We'll see a nut shot. We'll see him back away and don't hit me.
Yeah.
And then we'll see him strut. And then of course we'll do the slaps a little bit. But then we're also going to see old man titty because he's going to wrestle without a shirt on, and we don't want to see that because they're whatever was tight there isn't tight anymore. Yeah, he's going to be wearing his brief. It's just I don't know if he needs the money. Let's just do it. Money. People will give him money. People give Virgil money.
That's true.
I'll throw him $5. I don't know, dude. I just there's just so much that can go wrong, and just not. There's no upside to this for me.
Here's the thing.
It can't be about that money. His son-in-law and his daughter both have to be worth money, or they can't have spent all their money yet. So he could be taken care of. He should just retire. Go take care of the. Yeah. What did he get? Then he tried to sue. Did he sue the WWE too, or did he just sue? It wasn't Sasha Banks. It was the one that tried to call herself.
Becky Lynch. Yeah. I don't know if he sued WWE and her, or just WWE.
Yeah. But I think we'd be remiss in saying this though. We're dogging Ric Flair at age 73, right? How old?
Yes.
How old were Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah when they were still in the ring doing stuff?
They shouldn't have been in the fucking ring either.
I know, but it's funny though. But
it wasn't serious though. They were always used for comedy when they were old.
Right. And I think that opens us up for another episode. Is this cool because it's comedy, or is this bad because it's Ric Flair's last match? Obviously, we all are in agreement that this is not comedy. This is whatever it is, what it is. But yeah, no, and I think it's something interesting to bring up. So I don't know. I love Ric Flair. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm not going to sit here and patronize the guy, romanticize his career based on anything that, you know, his womanizing or whatever. You know, in ring, you know, one of the all-time best, but I don't think he needs to be doing this either. You know, just that's it. I don't know.
The best case scenario is a match that nobody's going to remember. It's just going to be,
including him.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To be real, man, like I'm not trying to be a dick. I mean, I'm being a dick, but I'm not trying to be. It's just the reality of the situation is how much of the shit is he gonna remember at this point?
I don't
He
know.
takes one bad shot to the head. You know?
Yeah.
Shit, I got a concussion getting into my car. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. Definitely interesting though. It's cool to see the card kind of wrapped around him being basically people or the sons of people that he was involved with throughout his whole career. It's kind of cool. Or the daughters of Rachel Ellering being Paul Ellering's daughter. You know, it's just cool. So you do have a nice card wrapped around it. I hate to say this. I don't even be in his last match for me because I don't know what we're going to get out of that. I don't think it warrants my money. You know, so sorry, Rick.
Yeah,
I'll find that about you on the dirt sheets afterwards.
Hopefully not. Hopefully he's not in the dirt after. Hey, just a little quick recap though. Did we have either of you been able to make contact with that dude about the Chupacabra book?
I never tried.
Not yet, because I forgot.
Well, we will. We need to get on that because we've got, you know, always be chupacabra.com and chupacabrafordicks.com.
How good is the connection? Do I have a good connection?
Yeah.
Because I have Johnny Bench over here on the line.
No, it's
Oh.
so. All right, gentlemen. Well, I think that's where we should end this one. But yeah, until next time, check out chupacabrafordicks.com. Always be chupacabra.com. BigBeefyShootyBoys.com. Doubleeyecoffin.com. NoiseBrigadePod.com. HarleyQuinnSmith8MyBalls.com. And anything else?
Last words from Mr. Bench.
The nurse.
No. Hit end now. Hit end now.
Aw.
Cut off Johnny Bench.